Keith and Assembly-Member Connell quickly. Just mindful we need to move on.
Right, a few things, unfortunately. First one's to Jill, if I may. Are you aware of any dissatisfaction from any current or former TfL board member on how TfL dealt with the investigations into the derailment?
Jill.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again, please? Any?
Yeah. Are you aware of any dissatisfaction from any current or former member of the TfL board on how TfL dealt with the investigations into the derailment?
How TfL dealt with the investigations?
Yes.
No, I don't think how we dealt with the investigations. We had our own investigation, independent investigation undertaken by S&C Leveland, which we shared with the safety panel, which is a subcommittee of the TfL board. And we fully supported both RAIB and ORR's investigations.
Okay. Are you aware of the email that, the letter that Michael Liebrich wrote to Howard Carter on the 13th of July 2017 expressing concerns that Leon Daniels was the person who reported on the Sandylands, given his background as a director of tram operations for over 10 years?
I believe there was correspondence between Michael and Michael Liebrich, the chair, and Howard Carter, but the individual content of that and responses back and forwards, I think.
So it may be helpful just to clarify that we received a number of correspondence from Michael prior to this meeting, which he did indicate to Mike Brown that he was going to share with us. We're happy to share that with you later, so maybe you could take that back.
So I'm aware that Michael wrote about the fatigue report. So aware that was correspondence between TfL and Michael as chair of the panel, and as a former board member about the fatigue audit we undertook.
What, sorry?
The fatigue audit that was undertaken.
Yeah. Okay, so if I could just take this one. In fact, before I do that, do you know who is on the Sandyland Incident Review Board?
The Sandylands Incident Review Board, yes, it's a review board that's chaired by our General Counsel that's set up to look at our claims, and look how we manage claims and progress them through and other sort of legal issues.
Would you be able to share with us the actual members of the board? Not right now, obviously.
If you could provide that to us, that would be helpful, please. Thank you.
So just a couple more questions, if you don't mind, Chair. So on June the 26th, 2017, the Safety, Sustainability and HR panel were told by Leon Daniels that the fatigue audit was satisfactory and did not give rise to any concerns. Given that TfL later classified the audit as requires improvement, and the RAIB statement that the conclusions of the TfL audit are consistent with its own findings that at the time of the incident, TfL's management of fatigue risk was not in line with published industry practice and that there was significant scope for improvement. How does that square with Leon's comments that the audit was satisfactory and did not give any raised concerns?
I think when Leon was commenting on, it was a progress update, the audit investigation work had just been undertaken, and the audit itself hadn't been concluded, so it was more of a progress statement of where we were at the time in the audit, and then it was later concluded after we looked at the field work and results of what that entailed.
So you're saying that it's a matter of timescales, that when Leon reported you hadn't had the full report, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we hadn't had the full report when Leon had reported.
Can you tell me when you did get the full report?
The full report was issued 15th of September, I think it was. The field work was done in June that year, and so it was the field work had been finished very close to when the panel
so he was
meeting
reporting on the field work, yeah?
Well, I think it was just a general update on where we were at the time, and the final audit report hadn't been concluded at that stage. There was more work to be done.
But is it not a little strange though that the report changes significantly between the fieldwork and the conclusions. Wouldn't you have thought that the fieldwork might have highlighted some of these concerns in order to give you the conclusions you got to?
I can't comment on sort of the specifics of what Leon was thinking at the time, but the field work would have flagged up issues, and then we would look at them against the criteria of the audit and the ORR's findings to come to firmer conclusions, as well as looking at how First Group were complying with their own procedures as well. So it's an ongoing process and getting more evidence as
but
the
your
report
report
went on.
was separate from the RAIB report, wasn't it?
The audit report?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, just finally, this is to everybody on the panel really, but it only requires a very, very short answer, which is, do you believe that TfL's approach to the Sandylands investigation has been transparent and satisfactory throughout this process? And are there any significant questions to answer? Jackie, do you want to kick off with that one?
I think the whole thing about Sandylands, I don't want to specifically go into the fatigue audit, but the whole thing about tram and the whole tram industry, not just Croydon, which is why some of those recommendations have gone to the wider UK tram industry, was tram was based on line of sight for drivers, and so the driver was always going to make the right decision because they were driving line of sight. Since Sandylands, the UK tram industry has reviewed its position, as well as the rail regulator, who also had a recommendation out of the RAI report, is that as an industry we are re-looking at the whole of how tram works, and in fact we've also been working with Europe as well about the tram industry. And the tram itself has always been a very basic vehicle. And that's why TfL, working with ourselves, are adding extra things onto the tram that aids the driver, like the emergency brake. We're introducing iTram, the glass, all of those things, which were never introduced within the tram. And other tram companies within the UK are doing these things. The fact that we also reduce the speed from 80 to 70 kilometres an hour is not just Croydon, it's within the whole of the UK industry. I think in any of these tragic events, it's a real shame that we have to learn from them. And unfortunately, in any of these industries that we have, we all learn a very hard lesson from these things. And Tram is learning from this. And as the MD of Tram Operations Limited, everything in my power will be there that we never ever have another Sandylands.
That's good to hear.
And so that's why we're doing all the things that we're doing. So, but I can't say that we did everything right beforehand, but we have learnt and we are rectifying those, and we're working.
Just to remind you, actually, the question, although I appreciate the answer, the question was, do we feel that TfL's approach to the Sandylands investigation has been transparent and satisfactory throughout?
Perhaps if I can...
Well, we'll just go through it.
TfL, we had lots of external people doing investigations, the RAIB, the ORR, the British Transport Police. TfL, with ourselves, have been cooperating with those people, and TfL did their own investigation because they own the contract on the tram, and I believe that TfL could not have been doing anything differently to what they have done in the circumstances.
That's fine, thank you.
Adrian?
I can only echo what Jackie said. I mean, since the incident, there have been thorough investigations. We have worked very, very closely with TfL and committed to implementing all the recommendations from the RAIB report. So in terms of relationships between us and TfL, they've certainly been satisfactory from our point of view.
My view is, I think some of the public commentary on the investigations rather got lost in the weeds of the details of which report and the fatigue audit, etc., and loses sight of the bigger picture. 7 people died that day. The driver of that tram has been prosecuted, but still to this date not charged. Massive tragedy for all of the people involved. And while while I can understand people wanting to peer into when a fatigue audit happened, etc., I'm not sure it takes us much further on. You know, we do have to look at the bigger picture, and I hope we get a chance to talk more about some of the things that have been done and still need to be done.
We're going to move on to...
I was only going to add, it feels like there is a lot of scrutiny for us from the inside, and if we try to do anything other than being transparent, that information will come out eventually. So we were talking about culture earlier. In our mindset, we present what we can, do the best that we can, present the information that is available to us in the best way that we can. There is no culture that I can see of not trying to be transparent. That's just a personal observation from how it's felt through the last 2.5 years of this process.
I reiterate everything that's been said, and also say as well that we've also been transparent where we've got it wrong as well, and explained why, and tried to rectify it as soon as we could. So I think we have been transparent throughout.
Okay, thank you. Assemblymember O'Connell.
Thank you very much.